So today we're going to talk about beginner grants. Beginner grants are grants that are a little easier to apply for. Maybe they have less reporting at the end. They're a good place to start if you've never or you had limited experience with grants before. So beginner grants. A grant, which most everybody is aware of, these are funds that you do not have to repay. Most grants are competitive, meaning if you apply for them, there'll be other people applying for them. There's only so much money, which also means they are harder to apply for. They require a lot of information up front. They require a lot of reporting afterward. They want to know that their money was used for everything you said it was going to be used for. But then there's these other grants that are a little more simple, maybe don't require matching funds, which you'll see in the bigger federal and state grants for sure. And these are grants that might be good to apply for when you're just starting out. So with a beginner grant, first, as with any grant, you do your research. This is probably the longest process in a beginner grant. You can look on grant hubs like our Knowledge Center, where we keep a lot of grants listed. You can just do a general search on Google for easy apply grants. Any way you want to search for grants, if you have a specific project, you can do a Google search for that project. And of course, some may be easy, some may be more difficult. Then you apply for the grant. With beginner grants, they're usually a format that you've seen, like a Jot form, a Google form. It has minimal information on it. It's really easy to click a link and put it in there. It's not complicated PDFs and printouts. It's much simpler. For the wait, normally it's a short turnaround time, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, whereas the larger grants can be months to a year to find out about who was selected. And then celebrate when you get it, and then get to work. So this is one of the in-kind grants, in-kind being it's not money, it's product. So the Google Ad Grant, the slideshow will also be on the website with the recording. It should be to the right of the recording, and you'll see the links are active. So you can click on this link to watch a video about Google Ad Grants. These are for certified nonprofits. So you must be a 501c3. You must sign up for percent. There's a link down here for percent, and that verifies to Google that you are a 501c3 charitable organization. And what this provides is $10,000 per month in advertising credits. So it isn't money, it is Google Ads. Whenever you're on Google and you search for something and you see a result at the top, then that is a Google ad. It'll say sponsored on it. There's nothing wrong with clicking a Google Ads sponsored link. It's actually the best way that companies know that you're engaged. For instance, if I do a Google search and I have a sponsored link come up, and then below it, I have the same link, but not sponsored, I usually click the sponsored link. That way they know their ad worked. I use their ad, and that click is how they spend this $10,000 per month. That is more money than most nonprofits need. But if you learn a little bit more about ad grants, nonprofits who use it have shown to really improve their fundraising, their engagement, and it is just a great way to get more information out there about yourselves. Everyone that applies gets the Google grant, the ad grants. And if you're in education and instead of a nonprofit, there's a Google for Education, which is the same program. In addition to the $10,000 per month advertising credit, you also get all the Google products, which you might use Gmail and Google Drive now. but this will let you create your own domain in Google email. So you won't have a Gmail account. You'll have an at whatever you create for your organization account. So it adds a little bit more legitimacy just looking at it when people see that you have an actual account. It is a great thing to get started on.
Welcome to Google's Ad Grants program. Social good is a core tenet at Google, and we are grateful for the work nonprofits such as you do to make the world a better place.
Just a little bit of how that works. So you'll be able to watch that. Another in-kind grant, don't want to mention Google without mentioning Microsoft. So this is Microsoft 365, which used to be called, I think, Microsoft Office. This is a grant for nonprofits again. You get the basic business package of Microsoft 365, which are these products up here: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook. Those are things a lot of people use on a daily basis. Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. SharePoint and OneDrive are similar to your Google Drive if you've ever used that. The reason I mentioned the Google Drive is that is a free product that a lot of people use, but the Microsoft 365 product is one that you normally pay for. So not everybody has had access to SharePoint before, but you can put up to 300 users. I don't know many nonprofits locally that have 300 users, so that's a good limit. Your whole team can have access to the SharePoint and OneDrive. You can share documents. You can work on them at the same time. You'll have PowerPoint where you can make presentations. This is really useful if you're presenting to, say, a city council or some other type of board or foundation, likely raising funds and awareness. Word, you can create all sorts of very nice documents, flyers. Excel, of course, you can keep any sort of documentation on that as far as money spent, money's earned. And this is best for small to mid-sized nonprofits. But that is a great tool. With both Google and Microsoft, you also get a good bit of support with it. That there's video after video of how to promote, how to use these products, and how to get the most use out of them for your organization. And again, when you get the slides, this is an actual link. You can click there and go right to the nonprofit grant page. For Imprint, 1x1 grant. If you've ever seen For Imprint, they are a company that make promotional materials. They take your logo and put it on cups, frisbees, anything you've ever gotten at a conference. For Imprint is a likely company to have done it. So this isn't a grant that everybody gets. It's competitive, but it's a great one if you can get it. Again, it's in kind. It's not money, but it's product. So with this grant, if you're awarded, you get $500 for use of promotional materials. They award it within 2 months. So that's a pretty short lead time. For instance, if you applied now, then in 2 months, they would have and you were granted the promotion, then you would be able to order your items within 2-month period from now. So that's pretty quick. They're for 501c3 charities, religious organizations, and accredited schools. So lots of people can apply for this one. Target Community Giving. With Target, they give up to $500 in gift cards. If you can't buy it at Target, you might not need it. The typical awards between 50 and 100, that just depends on what they feel they want to grant that particular project. This is for 501c3s, accredited schools, and government agencies, towns, counties. So that is a good one to apply for. If you apply and don't get it, you can reapply. Very similar, Walmart local community grants. There's a Walmart in just about every community. They employ many people in my community specifically, probably in many. This is between $250 and $5,000. So you have to be an eligible nonprofit organization and must operate on and benefit at the local level. I think all our stakeholders are local level organizations. Applications can be submitted at any time, once every 3 months. They make awards, but it's open all year long to apply for. And much like the Google grant, you have to be in, this one is Front Door. You have to put your information in Front Door to verify that you're a nonprofit organization before applying. But once you do that, then you are ready to apply. And again, if you don't get it, apply again. So these next grants are what I would consider intermediate. So an intermediate grant is a little more work, maybe a little more reporting at the end, but still attainable for an organization that hasn't had a lot of work in grants. So you've got your research part. Again, hardest part. We're happy to help with that. Many of them might request a letter of an intent, which means they don't give you the application until you submit a letter saying, here's my project, here's why I'd like to apply, here's what I'd like to apply for, and then they give you the link. That is common in foundations and larger grants. At the intermediate level, you don't usually have a letter of an intent. It's usually just, it's open to apply. So when you're ready to, you found your grants, you're ready to apply, it may require a little more documentation, like it might require a budget or balance sheet. It might require a simplified business plan, but it won't require all those deep dive fundamental pieces of information that the larger grants do. So the wait, you might wait a little longer than you will with a basic grant, probably not as long as you would with a larger grant. And you're more likely to get a notice that you were not granted the funds. And that is something that I really like. There's hardly anything worse than applying for something and then just waiting and waiting. They've made their decisions, you don't know it. But most of these smaller grant opportunities are personal and they will let you know up front. Also, if you ask them, they will let you know reasons why it wasn't funded and tips to fund next time. That's really for just about all size grants. The use of funds. Make sure you're keeping track of your spending and your receipts, because the intermediate grant like this might have a little more record keeping required at the end, but they tell you up front what the record keeping is, when they require it, if funds have to be returned by a certain date if they're not used. You will know all that up front. A lot of times they like to have photos of your project at the end to advertise, which I think is great. Any of the websites for grants you look at, they'll have a list of past recipients and a little story about them and pictures. And those are some of my favorite things to look at on grant pages. Okay, so this is what I consider intermediate. These smaller grants are usually up to $1,000. This National Association for Self-Employed grant is up to $4,000. This is an association that you belong to. And if you click on the link, you'll be able to see it is $12 a month to be a part of the National Association of Self-Employed. This is for businesses primarily, or it's a discount. If you pay for a year, it's $120 a year. Of course, there are other benefits to being part of this organization. So some people find a lot of benefit in just being involved. You need to have a basic business plan, which you can go online and search basic business plan and be able to fill in the blanks of what your project or your business is. This is awarded every quarter, so you can apply at any time. They award it 4 times a year. You need to keep track of your spending, which some of the smaller grants don't require. That just means if you go to Lowe's and spend $400 on a couple pieces of lumber, then you keep that receipt. You put in your Excel notes that this is how much it was, this is what it was used for, and then that's something you'll turn in at the end. This is a pretty neat one. BW Wells Stewardship Funds. Although this might be a main project for a lot of organizations, I find it's one that fits very well into many projects. So it's up to $1,000. Any group can apply. It doesn't matter if it's a business, a school, a nonprofit, you can apply for it. The deadline is September 1st each year, and it's awarded in November. You'll have to provide a little bit of upfront information. Project description, I would certainly make that as detailed and just a good description of your project, your story, why you're doing this project, what are the benefits from the project. They'll want a budget, and they love to have photos after, especially since it's a plant project. So what this provides, if you receive this grant, is installation of new native plant gardens, restoration and maintenance of existing natural plant communities, and public education on native plants and their benefits and conservation. So this might fit into a park project or a trails project, a project at a school where they're working on just learning about native flowers, science class. The Go Outside grant. And again, these are just examples of some of these intermediate grants that I find to be particularly beneficial. So this one is up to $20,000. When you go to the North Carolina Youth Outdoor Engagement site, you will see they have many different categories. So depending on the grant program, it's up to $20,000. This is for K-12 schools, homeschool associations, children's homes, 501c3s. So a lot of your nonprofit organizations fit in here. You'll need a budget. You'll need photos. And you have to spend it on that project. So it's good to have the project ready to go within 30 days or return the funds that are left over. They have a lot of categories like nature field trips. You can use the money to take your students on a field trip to a state park, something like that. Working on nature trails, archery ranges, that has certainly been something popping up around my area, where they have, for instance, one of our middle schools started an archery range, and it's something that all the kids have really enjoyed. This money can go toward getting the range set up, getting the gear that's needed. It's just a great all-around grant program. So that was a sampling of the type of beginner and intermediate grants to just get you started on learning about them. My email is on here if you need to contact me for any help, information. We do things like talk to you one-on-one about projects. You're also welcome to email if you don't have a big project. You say, I'm just looking for some information about this specific grant that maybe you found on your own. We're happy to help connect you to the grantors. The grantors really like to have a relationship with the people applying for their grants. They're happy to help you. They're happy to hear about your project. Many of them will read over your proposals, which we're also happy to do if the grantor won't. If the grantor will read it over, that is absolutely the best way to go, and they will give you advice as well. Have a newsletter to sign up for, and we thank you for joining us today.